How to test Web API? What are the tools? Now, Web API do not have UI, so how to test the input and output in Web APIs? The answer is Postman, Swagger, Fiddler. These are the popular tools to test the Web APIs. Here is the screenshot of Postman, which is, I think, the most popular one. What are the main return types supported in Web APIs? Now in MVC architecture, the controller have action methods and then they return something, right? Now here is the list of return types written by the Web API controller method, controller action method. Okay, we do not have to remember every one of these, but the top two are very important. First one is HTTP response message, and this class allows developer to create and return HTTP response with a customized status code, headers and content. Here is the sample code for this, the HTTP response message. Okay, setting the response status to OK status and then setting the response content, and finally returning the response of type HTTP response message like this. Okay, so another popular and the latest return type is iHTTP action result. This is an interface, and this interface provides a level of abstraction between the controller and the HTTP response, allowing developers to return a variety of response types that implement the interface. So basically you can say that this is like a wrapper over the HTTP response message. Okay, it can do all the things which HTTP response message class can do, and that is also with less lines of codes. See the code, in only one line it is returning this HTTP status, which is okay, and also the response content. Isn't it impressive, right? Next return type is JSON result. This class is used to serialize an object to JSON format and return it as an HTTP response message. See the code to return the JSON string from the JSON result like this. Now apart from this, we have more return types which are good to know, but I will not read them all out. They okay, let me read them all. So another one is XML result. This class is used to serialize an object to XML format and return it as an HTTP response message. Then file stream result. This class used to return a file as an HTTP response message. Then empty result, used to respond empty HTTP response message with a specified status code. That means when you do not want to return any response, then this result can be used. Then we have a status code result. It is used to return an HTTP response message with a specified status code with no content. Okay, then we have redirect result. This class is used to redirect the client to a different URL, okay, by returning an HTTP response message with a redirect status code again. Then sorry, it's only 8, and I think now you know all the return types. As I said, the first two are the most important, but if you remember more, then that will be great also. What is the difference between HTTP response message and iHTTP action result? So basically both of these are used to return HTTP response from the action methods of Web API to the client. Okay, the difference is in Web API version 1.0, we have a response type class called HTTP response message for returning HTTP response from API, and this is like a sample implementation of HTTP response message. Now do not worry, here we are just getting the entity result and then checking if it is null. If yes, then setting the HTTP response message status code as not found and content as entity not found. If entity is not equal to null, then setting status code to success 200 and setting content as JSON string, which we got from the serialization from the entity object to the JSON format. And finally we are returning the response. Okay, but in the new version, which is 2.0, iHTTP action result or iAction result is introduced, which is basically the replacement of HTTP response message. Now if you look at this code, this is doing the same thing which we were doing with the HTTP response message now, but see the simplicity here. If entity is null, then not found will return both the status code and the message with this not found method here. Okay, and if entity is not null, then okay, this OK entity will return OK status code and automatically convert this entity object to JSON string format and finally return it. In short, iHTTP action result is a short and simple version of HTTP response message, and also it is the latest. So here are the benefits of iHTTP action result which you can share with anyone. The first one is readability. The iHTTP action result implementation is more readable as it uses simple not found and OK methods like this. The next advantage is testability. The iHTTP action result implementation is more testable as it allows for easier mocking of the return values. Okay, mocking is very easy in for unit testing with iHTTP action result. Then next advantage is flexibility. The iHTTP action result implementation is more flexible because it allows easy customizations of the HTTP response without needing to construct a HTTP response object manually. So you are constructing that manually there with the HTTP response message, but here it is not required in case of iHTTP action result. So the conclusion is iHTTP action result make things short and simple as comparison to the HTTP response message. What is the difference between iAction result and iHTTP action result? Some have confusion about these tools, and the answer is very simple. iHTTP action result is used in ASP.NET Web API, while iAction result is used in ASP.NET Core Web API. So like this is the ASP.NET framework normal, and this one is used, iAction result is for .NET Core framework. That is the difference between the two. Okay. What is content negotiation in Web API? Now if you look at this, here you can see we have one API which returns data in the default format, which is JSON. Okay, but it also support other formats like XML and others. Now suppose there are multiple clients of this API. One is Angular UI, another is Android mobile app UI, etc, etc. So all these clients 1, 2, 3, 4 require data in different formats. Like client 1 is needed in JSON format, client 2 XML. Now this mechanism of client telling the API that okay, we need the data in a particular format, and then Web API is also sending the data in that requested format. That is called content negotiation. The definition is, content negotiation is a way for the client and server to agree on the format, JSON or XML or any other, of the data being exchanged. Okay. Here you can see in Fiddler tool, the content type format is JSON and below is the JSON string data. Now how to do content negotiation? Content negotiation can be implemented with the help of media type formatter class, okay, which we will see in upcoming question. What is media type formatter class in Web API? So basically, if you see this flow, here in .NET project we have .NET types. For example, this employee is a class and this employee is a .NET type. Okay. Now after creating the object of this class, we cannot send this object as the response to the client request. Okay. We have to first serialize this object into the required media type formats like JSON or XML format, and then only we can send it to the client, right? For that conversion, we need media type formatter class. The definition is, media type formatter is a class in ASP.NET Web API that handles the conversion of objects into serialized formats like JSON, XML or any other media type that can be transmitted over the web or internet. Now, if you can see this JSON media type formatter, it is inherited from this base JSON media type formatter, and that is inherited from media type formatter only, okay, from this class only. Similarly, if you want to develop your own custom media type formatter, like other than JSON, for example, XYZ media type formatter, then you can create the class XYZ media type formatter and inherit it from media type formatter class. That is the use. And here is the way how your web API can accept the request in the media type format other than that JSON. See, now it is allowed to accept request in XML format by this code. Great. Now I think you have a good idea about media type formatter, right? What are response codes in web API? This is a very important to know from developer point of view. Here you can see the diagram. Okay, one axis. Now let's see one by one what are these codes. One axis is informational. It means communicates transfer protocol level information. Basically 102, 101. These are informational status codes. The next one is two axes. This is basically for success in general. It indicates that the client's request was accepted successfully. Okay. Third one is 3xs and double X. It is redirection. That means request is not complete. The client must take some additional action in order to complete this request, their request. Okay. That is like 3xx. Then the fourth one is 4xx, which is the client error. This means there is some error in API code and your request is not completed. Data request for the web API has some errors. Okay. The last one is 5xx, which means the server error. This means the error is not not due to your web API code, but due to some environmental settings. For example, your server is off. Some electricity issue is there. So that is like 5xs. The 4xs is more about your something is wrong with your API code. So that is the difference between 4xx and 5xx. And now here are some of the most popular and the most used codes. You can pause the video here and you can read them yourself. Do not try to memorize them all. Just think that yes, there can be so many types of responses we can get from the web APIs, or you can use these status codes in your web APIs. So these are the most common. The more you know, the better you can implement, right?